Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be sharing with you today's money chat. And if you haven't come to a money chat before, this is a weekly live where I talk about all things money, mindset, business strategy, kind of how they're all woven together and how this work comes together in my communities and in my own work and what's going on for my clients. And so I'd like to share with you today, kind of talking about the state of freeze that can happen for so many entrepreneurs when it comes to taking the action you know you need to take, right? So let me know in the comments if you've definitely been there before, like you have this deep desire and dream to achieve, success, financial independence, financial freedom, time freedom from your business and in your life, right? So you are pursuing, whatever business it is for you, whether that be a passive income stream business, building an app, a brick and mortar shop, coaching, supporting people create, like becoming an influencer, a travel blogger, whatever it might be, right? But you are pursuing this dream life, right? That you have. It's your specific dream life. It's your desires. It's so important for us to understand that, right? To know that there are different dreams and desires that each of us have, and they're beautifully your own, and to like really honor that. And so it's important, right, for us to know that as we start to consider like, okay, as I get clearer and clearer on the vision I have, right, and I start to pursue that vision, I get these beautiful insights, these beautiful hits of like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do to grow my business, to gain more followers, to make more sales, right? We all have those beautiful hits of inspiration. And then the dreaded freeze comes up. It's like, you know what you need to do, yet you are not taking the action. And I want to kind of dive into this a little bit and like better understand like what's happening here in your mindset, and like to invite you into how you can show yourself a little bit more compassion and how you can actually navigate through this and like figure out how to move through that. So number one is the number one thing that you want to do is actually understand like, oh, what is it that I feel I need to do, right? Because you have been given an idea or an insight of like, what is the action you need to take? So let's just think about this for a minute, because really what happens with an idea is that it's a collection of thoughts, right? So like you had the thought that you want to create financial freedom for yourself. You want to have a financially free experience in your life. And so then you were like, oh, I have an idea of what I can, achieve in my business, or this is the offer that I could make, right? You had a thought of, I'd like financial freedom. You had another thought of like, oh, this is what I could offer as a service. Oh, this is what I could charge for it. This is where I could market it. Like all of those things start to become an idea. The idea then is your offer, right? But then when it actually comes to carrying out the actions to sell your offer, to make money from your offer, you go into a state of freeze. Or maybe you actually take the very first step and you make that one post, you send that one email, you tell that one person, right? But then you go completely silent, right? You just like freeze up, stop any interaction, and you like hide away, right? So it's kind of like a mixture that goes on here of like, you decide to freeze and then you run away. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, why does that happen? Well, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you at all. There's nothing wrong with you for freezing. There's nothing wrong with you for running away. It is, in fact, just an aspect of your conditioning. All of your conditioning lives in your subconscious mind. So all of those thoughts and ideas, right, were happening on a conscious level. And like they went into your subconscious and they were like, oh my gosh, like this is what I want, right? But then due to your subconscious conditioning, right, what you've been programmed to believe, the current paradigm that you live in, it has told you, okay, we're not going to go any further. I can't do any more. Like, this is it, right? I took this one action and look, I failed, right? I didn't get the results that I wanted. I didn't get the sales that I wanted. So like I told you so, this is exactly what happens, right? because what was going on, right? Once you took that action of putting yourself out there, of putting that offer out there, you did it just once. You overcame the fear barrier. But what happened was you weren't actually over the barrier yet. You were just standing on top of the wall. Like you were kind of like, okay, we're going. Or maybe you were even climbing up that fear barrier and you were like, okay, this is actually really hard. I'm going to let go because I'm freaking out. And so then you let go and you return to a state of stasis, right? You return to what felt comfortable. Now, again, this is not a problem. This is not a problem, right? This is not like something's wrong with you. This is not you being fucked up. This is not like nothing is wrong, right? This is all this is where you have been programmed to feel comfortable, right? And so what I'm talking about now is actually your internal set point, right? Which is based on all of your conditioning. It's based on what has happened up until this point in your life in regards to success, in regards to earning money, right? So this is where mindset and having an intimate relationship with your money starts to become so deeply important to the success of your business, right? Because you need to reflect now and like, oh, what do I think about how much money I'm allowed to make? How much effort do I need to be putting in? What do I think about small businesses? What do I think about entrepreneurs? What do I think their success is like, right? Because I think we're constantly actually being bombarded by tons of information, whether that be on social media, on the news, on whatever of the current economic state, oh, we're going into a recession. This is not the time to be buying anything. It's dangerous to invest, et cetera, right? It's so hard to make it as an entrepreneur, all of these things, right? And you have very, very loud voices as well in the entrepreneurship world that are like, you need to work really hard. You need to burn out. You need to be exhausted, right? To get success. And so all of those things are coming together, right? And then you add on top of that your own lived experience of what you believe is possible for yourself with a business or for success or financial success. And then you have your conditioning, right? So you then have been conditioned potentially to not believe in your success. You've potentially been conditioned to doubt your success, right? You've been, conditioned to think that it's supposed to be difficult and hard, right? And so what I want to encourage you to do, right, is to question that, right? To actually think like, okay, what is my conditioning here, right? Actually, how can I surpass this fear barrier? And so that's what I want to talk about, right? Like, how do we actually overcome this fear barrier? So when you have a desire, right? And you have a desire, let's go with the same example we've been talking about of financial freedom, of, financial success, of time freedom, right? You have this vision of what that means to you, and you get really clear on it. You see the offer that you could put out there, the service that you could provide, what you could do, but the actual taking of actions, right? The not just keeping it in your head and daydreaming about it, but the actual money making action steps you need to take, you're freezing out on, right? And maybe you did it once, like maybe you showed up and you posted once, or you sent out that one email, or maybe you did it a couple weeks in a row, and maybe you did like 3 posts. But what I'm talking about is how can you create systematic change in your daily activity to pursue this dream of financial independence and freedom. Okay, this is where you need to change your conditioning. So when you get clear on what your conditioning is of these beliefs, right, that are holding you, right, these fears that are holding you into inaction, this is where you then are like, oh, okay, I have a fear barrier. This is my fear barrier. This is the fear that I have, right? It's stopping me from taking all the actions that I know I need to take to create success. And so then what happens is, oh, I have a fear barrier. Then what you want to do is we don't want to ignore the fear, right? Because like fear is actually something for us to uncover. It's a way for us to better understand ourselves and actually know the pitfalls that might happen for us as we grow as entrepreneurs and grow our business. So what we want to do is be like, okay, well, what are all the like posts that are holding up this fear? I want you to ask yourself, what are all the facts? Like, where is this evidence coming from that holds up this fear, right? So almost think of it like, here's you, right? And you're going, and then you hit a wall, which is your fear barrier. So here's your fear barrier. You've been going along and you hit this wall, right? There are actually like posts propping this wall up. This wall is not what you think it is. Like, it's not as impassable as you think this wall is. So there's all these like posts holding up this fear barrier. Each of those posts represent a specific piece of evidence or thought or doubt or individual fear or resentment that might come up from you surpassing this fear barrier and getting what you want, right? So this is where you start to go deeper into your mindset work and understand like, oh, what is the fear inventory that I need to do? What is the doubts that I have? What are the resentments that I think might bubble up, right? So for instance, right, this could be like, oh, well, if I get successful, I'm not going to know what to do with my business finances. I'm going to mess up my taxes. I'm going to have to pay a bunch of money in taxes, right? Those were some fears we talked about last week, right? It could also be like, well, I don't know how to manage people and I'm going to be really bad at it. So that's going to feel really overwhelming, right? Another thing could be, oh, well, like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with all those customers. Like, what if I have angry customers and I'm not going to know how to deal with it and I'm not going to know how to make it right and like all of that, right? Most of the time when you get clear on these fears, and I would recommend that you do a list of at least 20 of these like fears, doubts, resentments of like, if you got over this fear of like showing up, right? If you got that financial freedom, what are the fears and doubts that are coming up if you got it, right? Because that's what's holding up your fear barrier, right? These individual posts of, fear, doubt, resentment, whatever it might be for you, right? Because it's unique to you because of your conditioning, right? So you get clear on that list, and then it's all about just reframing those, right? It's all about going through those and being like, oh, well, if like I get a ton of people enrolled in my program and I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll have enough revenue probably to hire someone to support me, right? I will set boundaries on like what time I show up on social media or how many questions I take on a call or, when clients are allowed to reach out to me, right? What about that? Like, you would just set boundaries with your clients. You would just set boundaries in the group containers, right? Well, what if I'm not going to know what to do with my business finances? Well, could I take a program on business finances? Could I find a tool out there? Could I read some articles? Could I hire an accountant, right? Could I decide to start implementing the feminine finance methodology, right? And get my business finances organized, right? Which is exactly what I teach. Those all become possibilities, right? Those all become then like, oh, wait, there are solutions to all of these fears or doubts, right? So, oh, well, what if then like, this group of people start to reject me and think negatively of me because I've become successful, I've become financially successful, and now these people are going to not like me. And it's like, okay, well, like, if that's the case, like, were they really your friends in the first place if they're going to now dislike you because you've become successful? Like, how has you being successful changed who you are as a person, which was the reason why they liked you in the first place? So it's like, oh, do I actually have genuine relationships and connections with these people? Or is that actually just like a fear in my head that is not founded in truth with a capital T, right? So as you go through and start to identify these fears, doubts, and concerns, right, or resentments, you start to uncover as you reframe them, is that it almost all comes back to trusting yourself. Right? It's re-trusting yourself. It's deciding to bet on yourself. It's deciding to invest in yourself. And again, this is more common for people than you would think, but we are not taught to bet on ourselves. We're not taught to do that. We're not taught to bet on ourselves. We're not taught to like completely double down and like invest in ourselves, right? And be like, no, I have full faith this is something I can do. I have full faith in my vision. I know that this is what's best for everyone. I know that this is what's best for my family. I know this is what's best for me. I know that I can help other people. I know I can provide this service, right? That's not actually what we're taught to do. We're taught, right? We're conditioned to think our thoughts of like fear, doubt, distrust, right? It's all of these things in such a fascinating way that we're actually taught not to do this in ourselves, not to bet on ourselves. So I want to ask you, what would happen? How would your life look different of you betting on yourself, right? And here's the other mindset exercise I want to invite you into as you start to get clear, right? And you're dealing with freeze, right? So here's the other thing, right? There's the fear barrier and understanding the posts that are propping up this fear barrier. Because once you understand those posts, you can deconstruct them. You can get rid of them. Those are all in your mind. Those are all just programmed in your like subconscious mind. They're all conditioning, which means that you can create new beliefs. You can create new versions of your reality. And so then you can deconstruct, right, that fear barrier. But the second aspect that you can do here is actually reflecting on all of the positive what ifs, right? You can spiral yourself up rather than spiral yourself down, right? So here's the other thing, right, is that we are, again, taught to not bet on ourselves, right? We're taught to doubt ourselves. We're taught to question our own capacity. We're taught to question our worth, all of these things, right? We're taught to be like, oh, well, like, what if I fail? What if no one signs up? What if no one needs this service, right? And what I want to invite you into is actually, what if tons of people do need your service? What if you're solving a problem that lots of people have? What if people do sign up? What if people do resonate with your message? What if people become inspired by your message? What if this is the perfect offer that people have been looking for? What if this is exactly what people want? What if you are meant to be a leader? What if you are meant to create community? What if, in fact, you have a unique story that people need to hear, right? So this is doing the opposite and spiraling yourself up rather than down, right? So if you find yourself in a state of freeze and you find yourself going into all of those negative what ifs, right? And you've kind of gotten clear on your fear barrier, then it might be a really interesting exercise for you to spiral yourself up in what ifs, right? Spiral upwards in your what ifs and like understand, oh, wait, think of the exact opposite of all the negative what ifs that are naturally coming to you. Because again, those negative what ifs are part of your conditioning. They're part of the conditioning in your mind, right? That has told you not to bet on yourself, that has told you to doubt yourself. They're the part of you it's just a conditioning. That's all it is. And so I want to invite you into understanding this just as conditioning, because I think that when it comes to the mindset work as entrepreneurs, right, as business owners, and especially around the ideas and constructs of money and the paradigms that we hold around money, I think that we repeatedly we put a lot of weight on that mindset work. We put a lot of weight on like, oh my gosh, like, I just am no good at this. And like, there's something wrong with me and I'm broken and fucked up and like all of these things, right? But that's not true. That's not true. It's just conditioning. That's all it is. And because it's just conditioning, it means that you can change it, right? This is just like, it's like we've moved away from being little kids who were trying to figure out how to like put clothes on the right way and like tie our shoes. And we've forgotten that our mind can be completely changed, that we can learn new ideas, right? And so I really want to invite you into this space of you can change your conditioning. You can change your lived reality with money. You can change what it's like. And if you're looking to do that, I would love to support you in this work. It's what I do in my communities, whether it be my group programs, my one-on-one. I'd love to talk with you about it, but it's like you can change your reality. And it's all about adopting new strategies, learning new skills when it comes to engaging with your finances, learning how to engage with them in ease, with peace, with pleasure, with fun and playfulness, rather than this kind of like very intense, high stakes game when it comes to our mindset, when it comes to our business, when it comes to our money, right? It's learning how to not hold so tightly to these ideals, right? So if you have been getting clear on your financial dreams and you are finding yourself freezing, I really invite you to check out these tools that I'm talking about, right? Getting clear on your fear barrier, understanding the structures that are holding them up, deciding to spiral your mindset up with the positive what ifs rather than spiraling down, right? And buying into the doubt and distrust that you're experiencing or feeling around yourself. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I definitely check out all the comments. So really, like, let me know what resonated with you. Let me know which tool you are going to check out or try. And with that, I will see you next week for our next money chat. Bye.